welcome back to my channel. I hope that you're doing well. Welcome to another video and welcome back to a recommendation video. I don't do these very often, but I was approached by another booktuber asking if I wanted to collaborate with a few other wonderful booktubers on giving you recommendations for some witchy books. So of course I said yes, and I am very excited to share with you some of my recommendations for witchy books during the month of October. Hopefully this will give you some recommendations that you're really interested in reading and picking up during the October spooky season. And if not, I hope you enjoy the video nonetheless. But first I'm going to go ahead and talk over all the booktubers that are collaborating in this recommendation style video, and then we'll go ahead and get into my 10 recommendations that I have. So there are 5 other booktubers, 6 people in total, including myself, so I will leave all of the information down in the description box below so you can go check out their videos after you watch this one. So first and foremost, there is Becky at X Reads. She's the one that approached me to do this video idea, so thank you so much to her for including me. I feel very honored and I'm very excited to be working with her. We also have Isa at Fun Fantasy Books, Jackie at First Lady Reads, Kristen at Kristen Craves Books, and finally Laura at A Book Circus. Like I said, all of their information will be in the description box below. Make sure to go check them out, show them some love, and watch their recommendation videos. I'm sure they're going to have some really fantastic recommendations as well. So without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about the 10 witchy books that I recommend during this October spooky season. So first and foremost, I'm going to start with the 2 books that I do not own, just so I can make sure to get them out of the way and I don't forget them. The first one is Mooncakes. This is a graphic novel that I read back in 2020 and really enjoyed. It's a graphic novel that I still think about to this day. It was a very fun, fast-paced, witchy romance book. It is LGBTQI+. There is a female-female relationship at the center of this book, and you also have a female-female relationship between 2 grandparents in this book as well. And I just thought the representation, the LGBTQI+ representation, as well as the disability rep, was done so beautifully well, and I had such a fun time with it. This is the perfect book for Halloween time, since I believe it is set around October time or in the fall. So if you're looking for a good fall October read, this is definitely one that you would really enjoy. I don't remember the synopsis too much of this one, but for me, when I look into graphic novels, I think about the vibes and not really about what it's about. I just like looking at the pictures and reading a cute and wholesome story, and this one definitely delivers. The next recommendation that I have is not a book that I absolutely loved, but I feel like as a person that reads books, I feel like there are a lot of people that are going to love this series. It just didn't work for me, and that is Written by Catherine Moon. This is a Why Choose witchy romance. Everybody in this story is a witch in some capacity, the men and the females, and it is a Why Choose romance that deals with a woman at the center who didn't know that she was a witch, and she's just coming into her powers, and she's looking, well, not really looking, but she stumbles upon a coven that wants to include her in their coven as well as their relationships as a whole. So it is a Why Choose romance. She doesn't have to choose any one man in this particular instance, and I believe there are 4 or 5. So if you're looking for a good witchy Why Choose romance, this is definitely one that I would highly recommend. Again, it didn't work necessarily for me, but I know that there are some people out there that have absolutely loved it already, and if you are in the mood for something that is something along these lines, then I highly recommend it. It is fun, it is fast-paced. It just wasn't a full 5 stars for me, but it could be a 5 stars for you. Let's move on to books that I do own. The first one that I have on my stack here is Kingdom of the Wicked by Karen Maniscalco. I feel like this is the quintessential YA witchy book to recommend, especially during the October vibes, because it is very spooky in nature. A lot of witchy books aren't always spooky per se, but I do think that this one does give off the creepy, ominous vibes because of the murder at the center of this book, as well as the murder mystery that you're trying to solve throughout the entirety of this book series. So this book follows 2 twin girls who are witches, and in this world, magical witchy powers are passed on maternally. So their mother doesn't have any supernatural abilities. However, their grandmother is a witch, and she is very hell-bent on telling them to stay safe during this time. She has a feeling that something bad is going to happen, and unfortunately it does. One of the twin sisters gets murdered, and Amelia, the other twin, takes it upon herself to try to figure out who killed her sister, and during that process she accidentally summons a Prince of Hell, one of the 7 Princes of Hell, Wrath, and it is a relationship between them, but also a murder mystery along those lines as well. It's a fun, fast-paced first book in a series. I haven't read the rest of them, but if you are looking for a good atmospheric read, I highly suggest this one. The next book that I'm going to recommend is technically not a witchy book. However, there is a witch main character who is followed in the second book in the series, but you have to read the first one in order to read the second one. So I'm going to recommend Wolf Song by TJ Klune. I love this series. This is the Green Creek series. It is fantastic. It is LGBTQI+ through and through. It is the gayest, most gay book I've ever read, and I love it so much. This particular book follows gay werewolves, but we do meet a witch in the first book. His name is Gordo, and you do follow him throughout the entirety of the next four books that you're going to read in this series. And Gordo's book is actually Raven Song, and he is a witch, so this definitely does have a witch at the center, and it's definitely one that I highly recommend. This follows Ox and Joe, who meet when Joe is very young. He hasn't spoken in several years due to something that has happened to him in his past, and as soon as he meets Ox, all of that goes out the window and he finds a best friend. It isn't until years later that they strike up a romance, but Ox does find out that his entire family, Joe's entire family, are werewolves, and they also need a witch in their pack in order to keep them nice and rounded. And the entire series follows them as they go through trials and tribulations and many heartbreaking things, but it's a fantastic series and I highly recommend it if you are looking for a good series that's going to break your heart but also make you fall in love with every single character, including the witch Gordo. Speaking of TJ Klune, I could not recommend The Lightning Struck Heart by TJ Klune. This is the first book in the Tales from Verania series, and you're following a wizard named Sam. For me, wizards and witches are the same thing. Just a male version of that. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I went down a whole rabbit hole of what consists of a witchy book before filming this, so I apologize, but I do think this one definitely fits the category. You're following Sam, who is a wizard in training. He is being mentored by one of the biggest wizards in the world, and you were following him and his two sidekick best friends, Tiggy and Gary. Tiggy is a half giant, and Gary is a hornless, horny unicorn, and you follow their antics and shenanigans, as well as a romance as the forefront of the story. Sam is in love with Ryan, who is the King's Guard. However, Ryan is already betrothed to somebody else. And so you're following their relationship. It's so much fun. It's so quirky. It's so weird. It is very different in regards to a epic fantasy, but it is so refreshing and so light. So if you're looking for a fun, good time where you're going to laugh the entire way through, I highly suggest the series. Up next, we have The Marionettes by Katie Wismer. This is one of my favorite series of all time. I am currently caught up, and I'm having so much fun with this. This is a paranormal romance between a witch and a vampire. In this world, witches and vampires rely on each other to keep their selves stabilized. I would go ahead and explain this book, but I think the synopsis does a great job at doing it, so I'm going to read the synopsis of this book, but just know I highly recommend it. It's so much fun, it's hot, it's sexy, and it just keeps getting better book after book. Also, Katie is a booktuber and author-tuber here on YouTube, so if you want to go check her out and support her channel, I highly recommend it. I'll leave her in the description box below. But this one says, Valerie Darkmoor's entire life has been building up to this moment, her initiation into the Marionettes, the prestigious league of witches sworn to serve the vampires. As one of the last remaining blood witches, her spot is almost guaranteed. At least, so she thought. The academy is full of sabotage and secrets as the task begins, and Valerie quickly realizes she has more than her spot on the line. Her survival seems just as uncertain. The closer she gets to the final trial, the more she learns everything, and everything around her isn't quite what it seems. Such a fantastic book. The second book is even better. Such a good one. Highly recommend. Okay, up next is one that I picked up because it was really highly recommended to me by Clint and Sterling, some of my good friends, and I just fell in love with it, and that is Serpent and Dove by Shelby Mahern. Granted, I didn't end up loving book 2 as much as I did book 1, but I thought book 1 was just so much fun. In this book, you are following a witch and a witch hunter who have to get married after a certain very untimely and, in the eyes of the church, unsavory situation happens, and so they have to get married in order to cover up everything that's going on. However, Reed does not know that she is a witch. She knows that he's a witch hunter, but he doesn't know that she is a witch. And so you go on this journey of them falling in love with each other. Obviously, secrets are being hidden and lies are being told, but it's so much fun. It's also set in the backdrop of Paris, which is absolutely wonderful. I love the ambiance and the atmosphere of this book. It was just a blast through and through. There is some humor as well as a really great romance, and I just had so much fun with it. So if you're looking for a fun, fast-paced, enemies to lovers, hate to love romance, this is definitely the one for you. Up next, we have Sweet and Bitter Magic by Adrienne Tooley. This is one that I read last year and had so much fun with. This is a female-female relationship between two witches, one who is outcast, the other who knows that she's a witch and knows that she has great and immense power, but wants nothing to do with the world of witches as it is, just because she has spent so much time trying to take care of her father after her family kind of fell apart. But a plague is going through this city because of the darker witches' relationships to her past, and so they go on a journey to fix this plague, and in that process they fall in love. They are an unlikely couple, but in the end they very much work out, and it was just so much fun to watch this female-female relationship blossom and to see them really come into their own and embrace their powers and their weaknesses. And it's just a great witchy read if you're looking for a light and easy one, but also one that kind of delves into some harder topics. The concept of family and obligations as a familial unit come into play as well, and I just had a really great time with this one. Definitely one that I'm looking forward to doing a reread of. Okay, our second to last book that we have is Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi. This one was a little bit tough for me to recommend, even though I know inherently it is a witchy book. I just feel like for a majority of the book, there's not a lot of powers and witchy things happening, so it was kind of hard for me to recommend it, but I do think that it is a inherently witchy book at its core. Basically, you follow this girl named Zaylee who knows that magic used to exist, and her mother was a very powerful witch, but one day the witches were all stripped of their magic. That left a very big gaping hole in what is known as their culture, and then one day she finds out that she needs to go and save magic and bring it back to these magi's that live in this world, but during that time she puts a target on her back and she is chased down by the prince in waiting, but she also has teamed up with the princess in waiting. So there's a lot of convoluted political stuff happening in here. I think I might have butchered that synopsis a little bit since it's been a long time since I read this one, but I thought that it was really well done. You also do have a kindling hate to love romance happening at the center of this book, while also dealing with familial obligations as well, and just the stress and the weight of so much responsibility as a young child, as a teenager at least, and I really enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to reading the second book, although I haven't heard the best of reviews about book 2, and I don't know if the series will ever get finished, but I do love the first book. And finally, the last book that I'm going to talk about is probably one of my favorite witchy reads that I have ever read, and that is The Nature of Witches by Rachel Griffin. I feel like this is the perfect atmospheric book that you can ever come across. It touches along all the bases of every season, but this feels inherently fall to me. This feels like a great October read, and I just love it so much. This book follows Clara, and she is an Everwitch. Everwitches have the ability to harness all powers of every season, so winter, spring, summer, and fall, whereas all the other witches in the world are only able to harness the season of which they were born into. So when you are a winter witch, you are most powerful in the winter, and as the season fades into spring, you don't lose your powers entirely, you're just less powerful, whereas Clara doesn't have that. She's powerful in every season and is able to draw energy and magic and resources from other witches around her. However, Clara doesn't want to be an Everwitch. Her powers really do create a big problem in her life and are very dangerous to the people around her, and she wants nothing more than to shirk off all responsibilities and let go of what she knows that the world is expecting of her. However, she can't do that because in this world, the witches are relied on to help control and regulate the climate, and as things get out of hand due to the world using too much and abusing the natural resources of the world, Clara is relied on much more, and as things kind of come to a head, she is forced to embrace her powers and who she is as an Everwitch, while also falling in love, and it's just a beautiful, wonderful story. I loved everything about this book. You have some really wonderful, incredible friendships in here and really beautiful relationships. You also have some LGBTQI plus representation, so I just love this book so much. I thought that it was beautifully well done. It's absolutely gorgeous, and I love Rachel Griffin as an author. She also has another book out, which is, I can't think of the title, but I'll put the picture on the screen. I haven't read that one yet, but I'm sure it's just as good as this one. All right, that is it. These are my 10 books that I would recommend for the October season. My 10 witchy recommendations, not including the 2 that I don't own, but you get the gist. I hope that you found some books in here that you are really interested in and would love to read. I had to put those down because my arms were killing me. But I hope that you enjoyed this video. Let me know down below some of your favorite witchy reads and ones that you would really recommend for this season. And please make sure also to go and check out the other 5 creators' videos and check out their recommendations. I, for one, am looking forward to watching every video and seeing which books I can add to my TBR, because I know there's going to be some really great recommendations in there. But that is the end of this video. I really hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, please make sure to give it a big old thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe before you leave. And of course, leave any comments, questions, and suggestions in the comment section below. And I will see you in the next video. Bye.
Baby, turn it down like a sweet and ready. Boys, keep it nice and steady.